treat people with respect. They have challenges. They want to work with somebody that actually cares about them. And they see us. They know what we're after. And when we actually show we care, actually concerned about their welfare, the welfare of their company, and let them make a decision to buy versus trying to close, then we're bringing sales into a dignified world.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Making Sales Social. I'm Bob Woods, Chief Marketing Officer at Social Sales Link, where we train and coach both individuals and sales teams on converting connections to sales conversations through the power of LinkedIn without being salesy. And I think our mission of not being salesy while using social is important, not only in general, but specifically with what our guest this week both teaches and really believes in. His name is Harry Spaight, and he's all about selling with dignity, which also happens to be the name of his book, and we'll talk about that a little later in today's episode. So as sales pros, our desire is to build relationships and to have clients for life, or it should be. However, we as salespeople don't seem to have time to do this anymore because we've become very focused on sales and numbers and all that junk, while missing the important part, which is people. After all, companies don't buy, people buy. The primary objective is to provide value for our prospects and customers. So Harry Spaight, our guest today, says now is the time to change your approach and direct it towards building a positive relationship and serving customers, clients, whatever you want, whatever your company calls them. The sales will follow, which is something we say and wholeheartedly believe in at Social Sales Link too. It's always good to speak with someone who's really in sync with what we do. So, Harry, welcome to Making Sales Social.
Oh, my goodness, Bob. We are so aligned. I think you could finish writing or finish my sentences while I'm speaking. And it's great. I just love it. This is exactly what you said. So, social selling, I can't wait to get into that topic because I had such a bad understanding of what that was.
Okay.
And I've learned over the years, so I'm looking to learn, and if I can provide value for you and your listeners, I'm happy to do so, my friend.
I have no doubt that there's going to be all kinds of value delivered in today's episode. This is going to be fun. So let's get started. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Harry.
Sure. I've got a very interesting background for like two people in the world. My wife would be one of them and one of my three kids maybe. So I wasn't always in sales. So a lot of people who do what I'm doing, right, is helping others be in sales. They were born and raised around sales, and they got into sales right out of college, became trainers and started businesses. Well, first of all, I didn't go to college. Out of high school, I decided that I wanted to become more spiritual, and I became a missionary. And with that lifestyle, I ended up spending the next 15 or so years being a missionary, and my wife and I eventually we met, got married, and we lived a couple of years in the Dominican Republic. So I take a lot of those experiences from the mission world and apply them to sales. So I come to sales really coming from a place of serving others. And that's really what the whole book is about. That's what I'm about. It's all about serving. So what's your thought on that craziness?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because my dad is a manufacturer's rep, so he was definitely in sales. I actually started out in journalism before eventually moving to marketing and then sales and the sales and marketing thing that I have going on now. But with journalism, I always say that so many of those journalism skills transfer over to sales, and it sounds like that you've kind of done the same thing with that idea of serving customers because you serve people in a very different way. Yet there's a lot of really great ideas that can easily be brought over too. And I guess
Right.
that leads into my next question. So, in coming up with this whole selling with dignity idea and what you do, was there ever a big aha moment for you, or was this kind of like a building thing, especially as you moved over to sales and you started really getting involved with it?
Yeah, I mean, so coming from the mission field, so this I'll try not to make this a long answer, but coming from the mission field, I was introduced to a sales bullpen. And to me, there is nothing more out of place. You know, you can use fish out of water. You can come up with the expression, but come up with a missionary in a sales bullpen is about as far out of place as I was. So if you've ever seen a movie like Wolf Wall Street, The Boiler
Yeah.
Room,
Boiler
Glengarry
room,
Glen
yeah.
Ross, you
Yep.
name it, I was I didn't swear since high school. Okay, so
Hmm.
here I was now in my mid 30s, and I'm being reintroduced to words I haven't used in over 15 years, and they were just commonplace. And so, not that it's a bad thing. I'm not against swearing. I mean, I'm a big fan of
Sure.
Gary Vee. Right? It's the message, right? And I can
Yep.
get past the language, so I'm not offended at all. But it did take
Hmm.
a little getting used to. So I was failing miserably in the sales bullpen. I mean, I was so out of place. I
Hmm.
didn't know, I have no business acumen. I struggled. And after several months of zeros and zeros, and I've got the big scoreboards on each end of the
Hmm.
bullpen, there's my name on the bottom of the scoreboard next to a big fat zero, right? So
Yeah.
I knew zeros were not good.
Hmm.
So one day on the way home, after several months of this, I said, "No, I this is not working. I've got to go back to my roots." I was a big fan of The Greatest Salesman in the World,
Yeah.
and are you familiar with it?
Yes, very.
Right, with the 10 scrolls. One of
Yep.
the scrolls is, "I will greet each day with love in my heart," or something along those lines.
Hmm.
And that's where I was. I was so naive, right? So I'm
Yep.
greeting the world with love. They're like, "What are you closing, Harry?" So I say, "No, I'm going to go back to this place of serving and see if I can make a success out of it." So that was the start of really selling with dignity, coming from a place of service. And so it was a long career, but that's really how it started. What's your,
Okay.
yeah, does that answer the question or your thought?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, because it seems like sometimes, people have a huge aha moment and they just kind of take off from there. And that's like a key moment in their career and quite frankly, in their life too. And I think that especially with you, you could say that it was a big moment, not
Oh my
only in your
goodness.
career, but in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just totally changed. I mean, from going to the point of quitting and saying this wasn't for me, even though I wasn't going to quit,
Hmm.
they probably would have fired me. So I don't think I would have kept up with the zeros for
Yeah.
too much longer. Right? In sales, zeros are not good. So,
No.
are so you're familiar with The Greatest Salesman in the World?
Yes.
Sounds like so. Can I ask what you got out of that book?
Yeah, just I mean, just that it's it's been a long time since I've read it, but I do think that anyone who is a salesperson should read that because it just just that idea of actually serving
Mhm.
and something that we're going to talk about in a little bit, just in terms of almost removing yourself and your needs from the equation so that you can really help someone who really does need help, and that your product services or whatever can deliver and really help that person, and
Yes,
just how
beautiful.
do you communicate that so that you could serve them essentially.
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
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 So even though we haven't read it, it's like we lived it, right? We haven't read it in
Yeah,
a while. I
exactly.
mean, you end up living it if they strike a chord with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that a lot of people may just kind of stumble into this without really reading the book and are actually living the book without knowing that they're living the book basically. So,
Exactly. That's so true.
and I'm not
Um,
talking about the finger snappers and the hey,
Yeah,
do
they
this.
always be
Yeah, there you
closing
go.
types.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right.
Yep. ABC,
Yeah.
close them like a garage door. Yeah, yeah, like that type of thing.
I just got the chills on that. No, please, no, that's not me.
That's funny. That's great. So, so speaking of ABC and closing like a garage door, one of the things that you say is that people can be, or salespeople rather, can be dignified with their approach. How do they achieve that and get out of that ABC mentality?
Yeah, so I think it really becomes just viewing the person across from you as a regular human being, a person that has a family, struggles in life, values, they're probably best friends with somebody, and we just treat them like a commission. We in general in sales, right? We just want their
Hmm.
money. I remember listening to their conversations. I don't know if it was movies, sales trainers, somebody saying, "You have the money, we want it." Right? That was really the mindset, and it's just like that is so disrespectful of people.
Hmm.
That sales and Anthony Iannarino, I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
He talks about sales is not something you do to somebody; it's what you do for somebody. I wish I read Anthony's book years ago, but it's relatively new.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
the concept is there, right? Treat people with respect. They have challenges. They want to work with somebody that actually cares about them, and they see us. I mean, Larry Levine talks about commission breath.
Yeah.
They can smell it. They see us. They know what we're after, and when we actually show we care, right? That we're actually concerned about their welfare, the welfare of their company, and let them make a decision to buy versus trying to close, then we're bringing sales into a dignified world where we're out to help and serve, and they reciprocate because they see that and they say, this Bob Woods guy, I want to work with him because he genuinely cares about my business. What's your take on that,
Yeah,
Bob?
that's huge. I mean, yeah, so I mean, I think the whole idea of letting the prospect come to their own conclusion that this is something that they need rather than trying to cram it down their throat,
Right. Yeah.
ABC
Yeah.
is, is I think key. And I think that one of the reasons why people are so turned off when they're just dealing with salespeople in general is because they have the mindset that the salesperson is going to be close,
Exactly.
close. And I think that when a salesperson comes from the mindset where you're talking about, and quite frankly, what we talk about too, it makes us as those other types of salespeople really stand out. And hopefully they will see that and they'll want to do with business with us, not just because we have a great product or service, but because of us and because of the type of
Exactly.
people that we are.
Right. So I liken it to, and I totally agree, right? So I liken it to the doctor, right? You can go to a doctor that is the best, right? Has the best reputation, most knowledgeable. This doctor knows everything and has zero bedside manner,
Yeah.
right? So we've been
Yeah.
there, right? We know those
We've all been there.
zero bedside manner. And so do
Hmm.
we want to hang out with them or do we want to go find the country doctor that will get up in the middle of the night, come to our home, right? May not have
Hmm.
the Harvard, degree, but it's like the people that care are the ones we want to be around, right? Is that kind of the way you feel about sales as
It's
well?
absolutely
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I've had a couple doctors like that too, and it's like, I got to go back in and see this doc again. Who, but they're really good. But you want to have a mix of both, and I think that that's what's really important. So
Yeah,
with that,
exactly.
there's another statement of yours that I like, and it really resonates, I think, with a lot of people out there that nowadays a lot of companies, especially medium and larger size companies, view their salespeople as, robots who literally mechanically call, mechanically email. And
Hmm.
there's little to no relationship building going on there. To me, it seems like companies are trying tie in sales metrics directly into closed sales way too much with too little room to maneuver. So like 100, 100 calls, 100 outreaches should equal this, which should equal this, which should equal closed sales. How can selling with dignity and empathy work within those metrics, or do they work within those?
Yeah, man, I'm not a big fan of metrics. I mean, I get the fact that businesses, they want to know and should know if the people they're investing in sales are doing the work. Right? I get that. I'm not saying that you should just not manage them and you shouldn't have any idea, right? But I mean, I used this example in the past where I was constantly being asked about metrics, and our team was hitting numbers and we were doing very well, but the metrics overcame the results, right? The metrics became more important than the results. And so I was, VP of sales. I'm a guy that rolls up the sleeves. I want to be out in the field with my people. That's who I am, right? I come from this place of service. I was getting calls in the middle of the day to give a report on what the metrics were. And I'm like, that's not what I'm getting paid for, right? You want me to go out and produce, help these people produce, build up our client base and all that. Well, eventually it got to the point where the metrics won, right? And Harry Spaight, I actually thought that sales was going down by the wayside, that robots, this would all be part of AI, and no one would need to have any skills. That's where I was thinking sales was going. Thankfully. All right. Did you have similar thoughts, or I see some nodding going on here?
The whole AI thing is just another can of worms that I still see coming, but can AI build a relationship? It can spit out scripts. It can, use that artificial intelligence to potentially guide a conversation or whatever you want to call it towards a certain thing, but can it really build a relationship? Can it really bring dignity to the sale? And I don't know.
I think the answer is no.
I think it takes people.
Right. I mean, I think there's value in some, right? But as long as we're working on the relationship. So getting back to your question, is that I would look at people who hit their numbers and had very poor metrics versus people that hit the metrics number had poor results. And so the question is, what would you rather have, right? Would you rather have results or would you rather have metrics? And, the answer is, well, I'd rather have metrics and results.
Yeah, that's what everybody's going to say.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
But you're in sales, you've got to look at the animals that we are. In general, we're people. We're not students. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but we're not people that love spreadsheets and data. We want to be in front of people. We want to be in the mix, right? We like to dress a certain way. We like to laugh. We like to have camaraderie. We want that whole social experience going on. And you have those people versus the people just very analytical, just want to dot every I, that will clean out every email in their inbox, right? They'll mark them all as read. They'll delete them. It'll be perfect. They'll have perfect emails, no sales results.
Right.
I will take the people with the sales results, and I think any business owner would take the sales results over the clean inbox, right? No questions there. So how does that translate? So you're looking at two very different types of people. Is there a way where we can make the person who is hitting numbers results-wise to be better with the metrics, maybe provide a little guidance, maybe a virtual assistant, maybe somebody to help with the metrics part? Because that person's working, right? They don't have to make 800 calls a week to get their numbers. Why are they successful? What do they know? Versus the person that's just pounding the phone. Everyone's sales is a numbers game to these people. I get passionate, so sorry, right? When I hear sales is a numbers game, it's like I can be deaf, dumb, and blind. Probably not the best expressions anymore, but I just say the same thing over and over again, expecting to hit a number, and it just doesn't work, right? Bad
Yeah.
is bad.
Yep. Definition
Right?
of insanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
I know you agree with me on this. Tell
Yeah,
me, what's your thought
100%.
on this, Bob?
Good. No, I mean, I don't think I really need to make an additional comment there because everything you said was 100% spot on there. 100%, Harry.
Right. So
So,
if we take, I'm sorry. So
no, no.
if to work in the metrics a little bit, I would take the winners, the results. And I'm not, again, the people that are hitting the results and celebrate them, right? Even though it goes against the norm about the numbers, but it's going to show people that are just number conscious that the real value in the business is the results, right? It's the sales. So we've got to be better at that. So let's celebrate that type of person that is great on the results and ask them to work with the numbers people to help with simple things, right? Showing empathy. Why are they successful? Give some sales guidance, right? Let them teach something in like a sales training or something that works in harmony with what the goals are of the business. But at the end of the day, people are hiring salespeople to produce results, not to produce metrics. Right. And so that's where selling with dignity fits in. It's getting better at the skills and the empathy so that our tone, right, the things that we do now become more relatable to people versus mechanical. And everything about metrics is mechanical, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. So, so why don't you take us through that process just really, really quick and maybe calling it a process isn't the right thing, but selling with dignity, developing what salespeople need to do to sell with dignity while at the same time selling, I guess, is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, so selling with dignity, it definitely has a process. It's like every other sales process in general.
Looking to up your LinkedIn game? The Social Sales Link team has you covered with our LinkedIn Sales Accelerator, a guided social selling program that includes training, coaching, and so much more. Visit socialsaleslink.com/in for more details. Again, that's socialsaleslink.com/in.
Except that you are now coming from a place of serving. So much of sales is mindset, right? Okay, so people who are in sales will recognize things like you've got to be up, you've got to be positive. If you're negative, then people are going to recognize that. They're going to sense the negativity. So we get all of that in sales. I'm venturing to say people got me over the years, and they get a lot of other people when they come from a place of serving. Just like the doctor with a good bedside manner, that stuff people get early on. There's a connection that goes on. So all along the way in the sales process, I suggest is that you find the human connection. You pick up the tones. You ask someone for 60 seconds, to make your call. If they hesitate, if you have a little banter, you say, I promise I won't, this will not be a life and death experience, right? You have some fun with it. You show your humanity. You recognize that when people are busy and they say, look, Harry, I'm really busy, we don't try to talk through that. We say, I get it. I understand what busy is like. I've been busy before. When is a good time to follow up? Would later today at 3:00 be okay? And by saying that, getting the person off the hook, giving them a chance is better than trying to overcome an objection where the person is legitimately busy. So there's different things that people can do that show the human element, right? So if you walked up to someone on the street or wherever, you're in a restaurant, you name it, you're having a conversation and someone says, look, I'm really busy, and they look at you like, don't talk to me. Well, okay. I get you. I'm going to go next. And then but the way I feel that we can still work in sales is ask when is a good time to follow up. Because now we're showing that we're listening, we recognize they're busy, and we're being polite. And I think personally, I've had more success than with those types, and that way than just let me just plow through it, knowing that you're really busy and really disrupt your day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What's your? I know that's
Y-
different. So how
No,
does that?
I think it definitely fits in great. What I'm imagining right now is someone who is saying to themselves, "Well, I'm already like that. I'm dignified in my approach. I have dignity." But yet, and I'm sure you talk to these people all the time, but when you talk to them, when you're dealing with them, it's you're thinking to yourself, "Yeah, you're really not like this, and I know that you're not like this, even though that you think that you are." How do you deal with that? With those
Yeah.
people who think they are, but they're really not.
Right. Yes. So you have to, because nobody wants to say that they're not selling with dignity, right? Oh, I love
Right.
the title of the book. I'm like that. I'm already like that, so I don't need to read the book. It's like fine, and it's like I'm already perfect, and I don't need to like read anymore either. So, and some people said I know all of this when they've read the book. There's nothing new, and it's like okay, that's fine. You're probably not for me. The thing that I'm looking for is always to be a little bit better. I
Mm-hmm.
get excited at my age that I still want to be better. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better sales leader. I want to be a better, you know, uh, contributor to the community. You name it. I'm looking to be better. Some people just
Mm-hmm.
aren't. They're all set. They're all set, and they can say whatever they want. This is not for them. It's for the people who truly want to be better and to be a better person, right? So my hidden message, Bob, in selling with dignity
Mm-hmm.
is you can't sell with dignity if you're not living with dignity. My whole big spiritual mission purpose in life is to show that sales, treating others with dignity, is living with dignity. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Somebody will say, I'm a great listener. So when they're listening to me, they want to interrupt, they won't let me finish, they want to argue, right? They don't get the whole, let me come from where Harry is. Let me be empathetic and say, is his background different? Because Harry clearly thinks different than I am. Is it different? Should I try to listen coming from Harry's perspective? Or whoever you're talking to, right? Whether that be our kids, whether it be someone we work with, someone that reports to us, we just expect that they get it because we do. And we listen and say, yeah, you're wrong. We're going to do it this way. Clap our hands and just say, let's go. All right, get on
Yeah.
board or get out. And I got to admit, I've had those conversations where that was my reaction. But
Mm-hmm.
in life, you have to get better. And it's like, well, that doesn't go over well all the time. So let me try coming from where they are and
Mm-hmm.
finding out where they are. Like, and an example I use is maybe I was born and we have a 100 chapter book, and maybe I was born and I automatically was on chapter 20. Someone else was born and they're on chapter 73 because they had incredible parents, great upbringing, and so forth. Someone else is going to be on chapter 3. So, for
Right.
order for the person that was born in chapter 3, kind of raised by wolves, a little humor, but whatever the difference of the background is, in order for them
Mm-hmm.
to get to chapter 20, it's like moving mountains. In order for me to get from chapter 20 to chapter 73, it's moving mountains. I
Yep.
may not relate to the person who's in chapter 90 and gets everything. So they have to, when they say something to me, in order for them to be empathetic, they have to understand where I'm coming from. So when
Yeah.
people say, I'm a good listener, what they're really saying in general is, I hear words. I hear
Yep.
noises, right? I see dead people. I mean, it's comedy when someone says, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a good listener, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody who is a good listener says, I'm a good listener,
I'm a good listener.
right? We say we need to be better. We're always looking to be better. I can't tell you how many times I interrupt people and then I go, I'm still not there, right? So that's just one example where people will say, I've got it. And then the others are, I closed this person, took a ton of money, made a ton of profit. It's like, yeah, that's all selling with dignity right there. It's just the exact opposite, right? It's not what we talk about. So that's kind of where I'm at. I let people grow, and they're not in the same chapter I'm in. And maybe one day they'll pass me, but I just take it with a smile and say, you know what? Keep learning, right? That's the message.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned, closing and get to the close and everything, but there are ways that salespeople can help after the sale as well. I'm wondering if you can get into that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you asking that. Is when I'm not sure if you've seen this once or twice, but people talk about, I want my customers to love me. After the sale, what happens? What happens as a sales rep post-sale, according to the customer? They move on, right? And in fact, the customer will say, I remember hearing this because I didn't come from the sales world, right? I was the anti-sales person. So people would say to me, like, what are you doing? You already made the sale. Customers were saying this to me. What are you doing? You already made the sale. Why are you here? I said, because I want to make sure everything goes perfectly. I want you guys to adjust to whatever it is that I was selling and love it, right? I didn't think anything about creating raving fans. I just felt like I wanted them to really enjoy the investment they made. So post-sale, a simple thing is not calling and saying, how's everything? Everything is fine. People are going to say that, right? But you're not going to create raving fans by calling and asking how everything is. Go there, bring some pizzas, bring some bagels, light up the room, thank people for their business. Go around, if you're selling whatever that other people are using it, ask what they need. How can you make the experience better? What questions have come up? That is going to create raving fans, right? Yep. And so, other things like you're big into social selling. Right. And I can't wait as we have this conversation. I tell people all the time is, how are you providing value to your customers after they bought? And I said, well, what are they doing on LinkedIn? How can you provide a value on LinkedIn? It's like, I don't know. I could tell them I'm selling something else. It's like, just comment on their post, right? Just comment 4 words. Thank you, Harry Spaight, that's 6 words. Thank you, Harry Spaight, for your post. That provides traction. So people who are posting, they want someone to comment on their post, so the algorithms get things moving, right? Is that what you guys teach? So
100%.
100%. So a simple thing to provide value, and I find out most salespeople are like, are you connected to your clients? No, they don't accept my invitation.
I wonder why.
Well, how about follow them? You can comment on their follows, right? But if they don't accept your invitation, that's because they think, what? What do they think? That you're just going to sell more crap to them, and that's not what they want.
Exactly.
So the simple things are, post-sale follow-up, make it a great experience, and then even, I'd say, visit the business, recommend the business on social media. So much you can do that provides value, and people are going to look at you and say, this Bob Woods guy is a genuine fan, right?
Yeah.
What's your take?
It's a lot easier to make a fan when you are already a fan. And I think that definitely gets proven out here. And then if you're commenting on something, it helps even more to identify something in the post that you agree with, maybe even ask a question based on the post, or if they link to an article or something like that. I mean, thank yous are good. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to take things even that one step deeper, that's a really good way to do it. And it really doesn't take a lot more time. Besides, you're already typing thank you into the box. You might as well, just add that little bit of extra thing. It'll take 30 seconds to do. So it really doesn't take a lot more time to really interact, and maybe even start a conversation within the post that can lead to another phone call about something different, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, you just never know. It's all about conversations and selling with dignity. People are going to want to talk to you more than likely, unless unless their personality just isn't like that. But most people aren't like that.
Yeah.
They will want to talk with someone who they like, and because you're selling with dignity, you should be in that position already.
Yeah. I mean, if someone is posting, they'll probably want to speak, right? Especially about
Yeah,
the topic. And we could,
exactly.
again, providing value could be, I love the message, right? That you
Hmm.
just put out, and I want to better understand it so I can maybe help promote it, right? I
Yep.
mean, you may
Right.
not, but at least have the conversation and shows that you're not. I mean, what's that? A 10-minute conversation?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an hour. It could be a
No.
few minutes just, and maybe it's just a little back and forth on the DM, but you're now showing genuine and don't fake it.
Will know when you're faking. I
Yeah.
mean, anyone will know when you're faking.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean that just comes out. But if you genuinely care about people, and I think sometimes people struggle with that because they
Yeah.
don't genuinely care. So
Yep.
what do you do in that situation? What's your thought on that when people who are in sales or in business don't necessarily care about other people? What do you say to them? Or
Just try to find any type of commonality that you might have with someone else. And that's going to take some questions, and that's definitely going to take a little bit of talking to. But if you do it in that genuine dignified way, to really find, at least one commonality, that'll make future conversations a lot easier. And then you'll just gradually start to care because
Mhm.
because you have the commonality, something that you care about and the other person cares about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think of people who say, well, I'm not really a people person. And, they'd much rather just hide behind emails, never answer
Mhm.
the phone if they didn't have to. But even in conversations with these people, I say, what do you like about sales? And they'll say, well, I like helping people. Right. So they may not be people per se, but they'll
Right.
still say, I like helping people. Once you say that, you may not love people, but
Hmm.
look for ways that you can help them. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just getting out of our comfort zone and being polite and
Yeah.
asking them a question about what's important to them is helping
Yeah.
too. It's not just being a great customer service.
Yeah. And that could be the commonality right there too. So,
Yeah.
so speaking of all these general types of things, if you can give us just one success that you've had with a client, considering everything that we've just been talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with people who make calls and they do a lot of outbound calls,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of it's not always the most comfortable thing to do for a living,
Sure.
right? But I worked with a person recently, and just coming from the mindset of we're here to serve, we don't need to sell on the first call. Make it so that the next call is better. Make it so that the third call will be even better. So instead of trying to close for a meeting on the first appointment, build better relationships on the first call. Instead of trying to
Hmm.
close for a meeting on the first call, start laying a foundation where trust can be built so that the next call, so that I look at calls as appointments. I don't
Right.
look at calls as something separate, as inferior to an appointment. The appointment is like the ultimate. You need more
Yeah.
appointments.
For so many people.
Well,
Yep.
that first conversation is incredibly important. And then the
Hmm.
second one. So when do you want to dismiss those and just say only the appointments count when you could be building a huge funnel of great conversations, and it changed the person's outlook completely on their outbound calling. Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, the results, I can't measure the results yet, but what I can measure is that the person's outlook on the job changed dramatically because now every conversation became valuable, right?
Wow, value.
Versus only the ones that closed with an appointment. And
Yep.
then the trust is built, the follow up emails are being sent. thanking people for the time they gave us versus years ago, we wouldn't, you know, it's like if I didn't get an appointment on somebody with a phone call, I felt like it was a lost call. Now we see
Mm-hmm.
the value in that the relationship is starting to be built even when someone's not interested, but being respectful, sending a message, thanking them, providing some value, maybe even connecting with them or following them on LinkedIn. There's a lot,
Yeah.
especially if it's a targeted account. There's a lot of good that could come from that. Is
Yeah.
that what's your thought on this one, Bob?
That's amazing. All that was just absolutely amazing. And you're right. I mean, it's the one thing that I got out of that was, everyone's thinking about, booking the meeting. Well, follow-up phone calls before a meeting are just as important. So I mean, people put meetings way up here and calls way down here. There's got to be much more of an equilibrium there, because calls build relationships, and then obviously, the actual meeting can take things to the next level. But if you don't have the work or whatever you want to call it before the next level, the meeting's not going to be as good.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think that if you have the right perspective of it, that your funnel, right, sales funnel, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to call it, your foundation for future
Mm-hmm.
conversations just keeps getting better and better versus one and done, not interested, next, not interested.
Yeah.
And see, that's where the mechanical sales as a number game fits in, and having conversation with someone that thought that way and then turning it around saying, look, this first call and the second call are extremely valuable because that's an account that may take 3 years to get in, and we still
Yep.
want to get in 3 years. But
Yep.
we can't wait for 3 years and call then and expect to get in.
Yep.
Right. So this is a labor of love to some degree.
Absolutely.
Right. And if we
Absolutely.
treat it right, then good things, I always believe you do things the right way with the right motives, good things will happen.
That is a perfect way to end the conversation. That's just amazing. So, your book, Selling with Dignity: Your Formula for Life-Changing Sales Results. Tell us a little bit more about that. About the book. Obviously, I think we've talked a decent amount about what's in the book already. But why don't you just give us a little more detail on that?
Yeah, so the book, thank you for asking. The book has got 26 chapters of the everyday things that we need in sales. Where do we come from in the first place? What kind of place is it, taking or giving? To starting conversations, to be an empathetic listener, to not being afraid to asking for the business, having, positive attitudes about yourself, getting rid of dead weight inside of your mind, right?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
there's negativity, negative people. So all of these things, I feel like people could pretty much open the book. And the way I wrote it is that they're short chapters. You could open the book, and there's a way I like to sometimes get a spark and just turn
Mhm.
to a page and say, I needed that, right? I'm going to be a better empathetic listener, or I'm going to watch this story that Harry talks about where he was in the Dominican Republic and people were offering him fruit juice made out of river water, and people were getting sick with amoebas, and my peers were saying, no, I can't drink your gift because it makes me sick. I learned that saying that does not really, that's not empathetic, right? You're
Right.
rejecting someone's gift. So
Mhm.
I took that and had some fun with it and learned how to speak better with tact and tie that into sales. So I take
Mhm.
all of these stories that I learned in the mission field and said, there's a sales story here. And so
Yeah.
that's what the book is. It ties in the whole giving, serving mindset with actual stories and bring it into the world of sales. And
That's
I 100% believe you put this stuff into practice, even the simple things about being an empathetic listener, your life will be better and your sales will be better.
So if you want all that, and I really don't know why you wouldn't, but if you want all that, hopefully you do, you can go to harryspaight.com. That's Harry and then Spaight.com, and you can order Selling with Dignity, your formula for life-changing sales results. You can order it directly from the website. So, Harry, this was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh man, you guys are doing great work, Bob Woods. The whole social selling thing is a big part of selling with dignity, right? And I wish we could touch on that more, but by all means, this is a big part of your life, and in sales and in business is the social aspect. And make sure that you're listening in on what Bob is teaching, and give his podcast some reviews. 5 stars reviews. Bob will love it. 6 stars even.
So I want to thank you for streaming this episode of Making Sales Social. And remember, when you're out and about this week, be sure to make your sales social. And because of this episode, we're going to change that to make your sales social and with dignity. Thank you. Thanks for listening, and join us again for more special guest instructors bringing you marketing, sales training, and social selling strategies that will set you apart. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest episodes from the Making Sales Social podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.